So we already know how to write the basis of the augmented sixth chord, and that's the thing that's consistent through all four types of the augmented sixth chords. But this lecture is going to be about how to write the what I call the regional variety. So the how to take your basic augmented sixth chord and make it Italian, French, German, or doubly augmented. Okay, so let's start with the Italian, which is the easiest. It's easy to write. So I'm in the key of A minor, and so I'm going to do my regular thing. I'm going to write scale degree 5, and I'm going to write another scale degree 5, if I can do that. And I'm going to write a half step above, and I'm going to erase that. Half step above goes right here, half step above goes below, and the half step below goes above. Okay, and if we pretend that's an F, then that's definitely an augmented sixth, because F to D is a sixth, and it's a major sixth would be F to D, and F to D sharp would be an augmented sixth. And then remember, the third note that we write is always the tonic. I'm going to write that up there, and then when we resolve the tonic, it's going to go here. And because I know there's two accidentals, here is my first accidental, and my second accidental in minor is going to be on the second chord, and I'm going to raise that. So there is my second accidental. So this is the basic. It's the same for each of the augmented sixth chords. And to make it an Italian, all I'm going to do, it's very simple. I'm just going to add the tonic again. So I could add the tonic up here as an A, but that's too high. I'm just going to double it right here. So because the alto has gone down, I'm not going to do that for sure, but what I'll do is make the soprano go up. So one of your Italian notes has to go down. That's the third above the bass. And one of them has to go up. Okay? The trick to remember is if I wouldn't have ever done this, but if I did do this, that's a little bit too far away. If my Italian note was way up there, and I move this down and this up, then I'll have more than an octave between these voices. So you want to avoid that if you can. But if it's the same note, if one voice goes up and one goes down, like we've done here, then it makes life pretty simple. So let's continue on. We've got the Italian. And let's go back to what we just had before. This is the root, or the basic chord structure of our augmented sixth chord, and I've gone ahead and redrawn it. So now we're going to write the French. Okay, here's our French, and we'll even put a little Frenchy kind of mustache on this character. There we go, it's the French chord. So the French, remember, if we're doing Italian, French, and German going north, the French is going to add a fourth. Think French and 4. Okay? So I'm just going to count up a fourth above the bass, and this fourth is diatonic. So here is my French note. It's a fourth above the bass. So from the bass up to there is a 4, and it happens to be an augmented fourth, but you don't have to worry about that. There's no accidental in the French chord. It's just the fourth. Okay? And then if we look over here in our resolution chord, which is a dominant, in our resolution chord, the only note that we seem to be missing is a B. So if we add that B, we'll have the dominant chord, and it just so happens that we don't have to do anything. We just repeat that French note. So the French note just sort of stays along. You can think of it tying over, like French people wear ties. It just sort of hangs out on the other side. Okay? So that's all you do for the French chord. You write your basic structure, add a fourth above the bass, and keep that same fourth above the bass in the next thing. All right, so as we continue, we're back to our regular old hullabaloo. That G sharp keeps disappearing on me. So this is again our chord structure, and we're going to write a German chord. So over here, remember we had the Italian, the French, and the German. The German is the northernmost city, well, country, I guess, in Europe, of these three. So in the German chord, remember we want to add a perfect fifth above the bass. So I'm going to add that perfect fifth right here. Okay? So there's my perfect fifth above the bass. And in a minor key, it takes no accidental. because a perfect fifth is just that C. And in a major key, it will take an accidental because that would normally be a C sharp if I were in A major. Okay, so that's if you just remember that it's a perfect fifth, it'll do it for you. Okay, now if I resolve this down to a B, like I am wont to do, because I know that needs to be my goal eventually, but if I resolve that down to a B, you might notice that I have parallel fifths between the soprano and the bass in this example. So from here to here and here to here is parallel fifths, and that's because up here was a perfect fifth. Okay, so to remedy that, we resolve this through a 6/4 chord. Okay, so it's going to be resolved through a cadential 6/4 chord. I'm running out of room. But you don't even need to know how to write a 6/4 chord, because if I have, as I have here, my augmented sixth chord, and here I have my chord of resolution, the 6/4 chord is just a mixture of the two. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to move the bass to what it's eventually going to be. And it might not be the bass, but whatever notes are involved in the augmented sixth, if you move those to what you're going to have at the end, so notice that these two match now. And then in the upper part, I'm just going to keep those the same notes. Okay? So I'm keeping the upper part the same. I'm not doing any changes. And the lower parts, I'm moving to the chord of resolution. So anything involved with the augmented sixth becomes part of, goes to the octave there, and then this stays over, and that automatically makes a 6/4 suspension. Okay, and then on the next beat that resolves. So that's how we do a German chord. Okay, it's not too tricky, and if I just want to get a little bit fancy and do the doubly augmented chord, I sort of write the doubly augmented chord first like I'm writing a German chord. So what I do is I find the German chord, and then instead of writing that perfect fifth, which was going to be here, I'm going to X that out, and I'm going to fill that in. I want to write that same note, okay? So the German and the doubly augmented chord have the exact same pitches, it's just that they're written differently. So instead of spelling that as a perfect fifth, I want to spell it as a fourth, which means I'm going to have to put a B there, and I need to make it a B sharp so that it's equal. Okay, and this is where we get the doubly augmented. This is a doubly augmented fourth, because F to B is an augmented fourth, which we learned in the French chord, and a doubly augmented fourth is F to B sharp. Okay, these typically happen in major keys, not minor keys. Okay, so that is how we write the doubly augmented chord, and in conclusion, that's how we write all of our augmented sixth chords. Okay, you have to write the basis first, and then you just add one additional note on top of it.